crying out for justice. Everyone is crying out for peace, yes. None is crying out for justice. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. Got to get it. Equal rights and justice. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Followers of Jesus, everybody wants to go up to heaven, but none of them want to die. I don't want no peace. I might need equal rights and justice. I got to get it. Equal rights and justice. I really need it. Equal rights and justice. Just give my share. Equal rights and justice. What is due to Caesar? You better give it on to Caesar. Hey, hey, hey. And what belongs to I and I? You better give it up to I. 'Cause I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I got to get it. Equal rights and justice. I'm fighting for it. Equal rights and justice. Everyone heading for the top, but tell me how far is it from the bottom? Nobody knows, but everybody fighting to reach the top. How far is it from the bottom? I don't want no peace. I want equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I've got to get equal rights and justice.
transitioned into the hereafter last week. Now, for those of you who know Papa, he was a man who lived with purpose and passion. He was a patriot who always wanted the best for Trinidad and Tobago. He was deeply involved in politics, and he carried forward a proud family lineage of political thought and revolution. Papa believed in justice, fairness, and building a better future, the values that he instilled of all of his children and grandchildren. But Papa was also a very simple man. He didn't get caught up in titles, class, religion, and any divisive mannerisms, but rather he valued people, inclusivity, and diversity. From the stories that I've heard from my father and my aunties and uncles, Papa really loved his belly, and he was very meticulous in the way that he dressed. He always have a seam in his pants, the shirt's always properly well ironed. In fact, I remember it had a time I had asked Papa to take some photos with me, and because he was not dressed properly, he refused to take that photo. And he believed that looking good was a reflection of self-respect. And these are the little things that show us the fullness of who he was. So today's service reflects both his legacy and his simplicity. Today we will share stories, memories, and tributes that remind us of the man that we were blessed to know. So at this time, I would like to invite my auntie, Ashaki Scott, the daughter of Mr. Constantine Scott, to deliver the eulogy.
Thank you, Rukaya, but you didn't tell them I was his favorite daughter. You didn't tell them that. Actually, I was his only daughter, to be quite frank. So, thanks everyone for coming. Good morning. So, we gather here today to celebrate the life of a man whose presence was a blessing to all of those who knew him. A devoted husband, a loving father, a mentor, and a friend. My dad, Constantine Scott, or better known as Concy to his childhood friends, and Scotty, was the fifth of 9 siblings born to Joseph Scott, originally from Grenada, and Winifred Allen Scott from San Fernando on March 11th, 1946, in the southern village of Avocat, Faizabad. Daddy often spoke about his childhood days, about how proud he was being from Faizabad in the oil belt and the trade union movement, where his father was the right-hand man of Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler. Daddy attended the Forest Reserve EC Primary School in Faizabad and passed for St. Benedict's College after being successful in the college exhibition examination. However, my grandparents could not afford to send him to college. He eventually immersed himself in playing cricket and football and wore his scars as a badge of honor. In his late teens, Daddy worked at the Faizabad post office. He and Mommy eventually moved to San Fernando after I was born to capitalize on career opportunities. Over the years, he became a businessman, owning Dynamic Automotive in Bamboo Village, La Romaine, and on Superior Street in San Fernando. He had a love for antique cars. He repaired many vintage cars which were eventually sold and rented for weddings. Daddy was also a project manager where he managed the infrastructural development of the Embarcadero waterfront, among many other projects in San Fernando. He eventually became a partner with Optimal Contracting and then was the founder and managing director of Anscott Security Services Limited. Daddy carried an unwavering passion for politics, good governance, and progressive thinking, not as abstract ideals, but as tools for shaping a better society. For him, it was never about power, but about people. He believed in fairness and in justice. Daddy's socio-political ideology was shaped by the great philosophers revolutionaries, and historians and politicos, such as Karl Marx, Joseph Stalin, Winston Duharan, Nelson Mandela, Kwame Ture, Mahatma Gandhi, Lloyd Best, Fidel Castro, Maurice Bishop, George Weeks, Uriah Buzz Butler, and a whole slew of revolutionaries over the years. His social consciousness and his passion for progressive revolution led Daddy to support the Black Power movement of the 1970s through the National United Freedom Fighters, otherwise known as NUF. Recently, Comrade Andrea Jacob, who is here today with us, who was a freedom fighter, acknowledged his contribution in the NUF movement in her book titled Andrea's Journey from Freedom Fighter to True Liberation. Daddy was also active in the ULF, the NJAC, the NAR, the UNC, and the Congress of the People, as well as the People's Partnership. He was instrumental in all these movements through his activism. He believed deeply in fairness, justice, and the responsibility of leadership to serve others. Though his conversations, his actions, and his example, he inspired those around him to think beyond themselves and to believe in the possibility of positive change. Daddy had a gift for mentorship. Young people were drawn to his warmth and intelligence, and he gave generously of his time and knowledge, guiding them with patience and respect. He planted seeds of hope and ambition in many lives, helping the next generation see what they could achieve. He was generous not only with his resources, limited resources at that, but with his spirit. His encouragement, his thoughtful words, these were treasures he shared freely. And through it all, his intelligence shone, not as something to be admired from a distance, but as a light that he used to illuminate paths for others. In our household and anywhere he ventured, he sparked conversations that made you think bigger about community, about our country, about the world. We often spoke about current affairs, regional issues, and geopolitics. For me, those lessons weren't just words. Daddy took me to political meetings and academic and issues-based forums all over the country since I was a teenager. I watched him listen, question, and engage, and in those moments, he planted in me a deep sense of social consciousness. He inspired my political activism and encouraged my every step of the way. He stood with me in all my professional endeavors when I was appointed a senator at one point, and even when I contested the San Fernando East seat a couple of years ago. His pride and his support never wavered. I carry this with me always, and it is one of the greatest gifts he has ever given to me. Daddy was a man of kindness, care, and love. To his wife, Joyce London Scott, our mommy, he was a true partner, steady, supportive, and devoted, embodying the most profound meaning of companionship. To us, his 3 children and 3 grandchildren, he was a guiding light. He provided not only with his hands, but with his heart, offering wisdom, encouragement, and unconditional love. When the storms of life occurred, he was still able to navigate the turbulent waters and rise to the occasion for each of us. He came from struggle, and this made him resilient, diligent, and focused. But my father, with all that good stuff, he was stubborn. I remember a couple of years ago during the COVID-19 pandemic, One of my best friends, Cherise, called me. She said, Shaki, I just see your father in the grocery. I said, in the grocery? What are you doing in the grocery? She said he came for a bottle of, I think it was jam. I said, jam? He left the house during a pandemic to go to the grocery just for a bottle of jam? So I called him immediately. I said, Daddy, did I tell you about this already? He said, oh, study me, I good. So these are the kind of interactions I would have had with him over the years. Stubborn in most things. He doesn't listen, right? He will take the advice, he will listen to you. He do ever admit that he was wrong. Yes? That's how my father was. Daddy was a true family man. I have fond memories of him surprising us with gifts at random days, random times, for no extraordinary occasion. He didn't wait for birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas or Valentine's to show his appreciation. Every weekend he took us to the beach, picnics, visiting families, going to the botanical gardens, everywhere he took us. He took us to carnival events, Ramlila, Emancipation, Pagua, Diwali, Christmas, everything. This was a testament to his appreciation for our vast cultural nuances. And even though he didn't subscribe to religion, he was committed to ensuring that we received a balanced, well-rounded childhood. He nurtured us to value people for their character and not their religion or ethnicity. As a family, we have always been all-embracing and immersed in the diversity of our friendships, community, and national activities. Daddy always said that we can't make a blueprint for life. He was a pragmatist, not prominent in sentimentality, but recognizing the social and institutional constructs that influence our interactions. Daddy was a simple man, but he never compromised on his appearance, as Rukiah said earlier, and always ensured that he was well-dressed. He was a true gentleman. Today we mourn the loss of a remarkable man, but we also honor his legacy. He lives on in the values he instilled in us, his children and grandchildren, in the lives of those he interacted with, and in the countless acts of kindness and generosity he gave so selflessly. We say goodbye with heavy hearts, but also with gratitude, grateful that we were blessed to know him, to learn from him, and to love him. May his soul rest in eternal peace, and may we continue to carry forward the lessons he left us, to be kind, to be generous, to think deeply, to be revolutionary, and to live with love. I love you forever, Daddy.
I don't think any words can quite match the absolutely wonderful honor that my auntie just gave to my grandpa. Grandpa will be remembered for his ideals, for the way that he lived his life, and for the lessons that he passed down to all of us. So you've heard from one of his children, and now you're going to hear from his favorite grandson, because he only has one grandson. So I would now like to welcome my cousin, Kasim Scott.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kasim, the proud grandson of the late Constantine Scott. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, and by extension, the ones that couldn't make it and are viewing on the live stream platform. The Scott family really appreciate the support through this time of grief and despair. As many of you may know, I grew up with my grandparents. I spent 18 years with them. From preschool straight up to secondary school, basically, my entire childhood. Papa played a crucial role in my development. He was most present for all milestones and achievements. He ensured that I received the best education, the best care, the best everything. He would drop me to school and pick me up after school every single day, and he was never ever a minute late. He would drop me to lessons after school also, and sometimes we'd even sit in to ensure that I was paying attention and participating in classes. I also didn't like the idea of extra lessons on a weekend. I don't go in lessons Monday, Wednesday, and I think it was Friday. Right? And he enrolled me to lessons on a Saturday and a Sunday. Which I don't want to go lessons on a Saturday and a Sunday. I'm tired on my bed. Right? To persuade or convince me to get up in the morning, he would go to my favorite double space and buy doubles for me, and I'll reply. Looking back at this just showed me the dedication, how devoted he was in me, in my educational development and my personal development. Some of the most memorable and cherished moments with my grandfather was when we would go run errands together. This man used to get up 4 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday to go Marabella Market, 4 o'clock. So I had to tag along now, you know. His justification for this was that we would get the best packs and the best deals. I didn't see these things as a chore. I saw it as quality time spent with my grandfather. Not only this, he was preparing me for the future. He was preparing me for when he would not be able to do these things anymore. Now I can make market, now I can make grocery, you know. I can budget, you know. I know how much market goods cost and things, you know. But one thing for sure I ain't doing is getting up 4 o'clock in the morning to go market. The sun ain't out yet, and you know, it's cold. Papa was just not a grandfather. He was much more. He was a father figure, a teacher, a role model, someone that I would look up to, someone I would emulate. I appreciate everything he has done for me and all the sacrifices he has made over the years. He truly is the best papa in the world, and he will forever live on in my heart.
Especially in his grandchildren's education. He really wanted to see all of us do our absolute best. And I think, kudos to our parents. I think he will be very, very proud of the job that they have done. So now
Greetings, everyone. It's so nice to see you all could come out here and share this moment with us. Though it's hard, but this is the road each of us have to take at some point in our life. What could I say? Daddy, he was that tall, embracing human, that oneness, togetherness. This sort of divisive way you see human beings living it today, the racist, the bigoted and that kind of thing. He was not of that, He was a humanitarian to the fullest. Certain things he left with me, and that make me the person I am today. Every weekend, every other 2-3 weeks, the deceased Chedi Jagan, former president of Guyana, coming to Trinidad by James Millet, and Chedi will call my dad and say, "Scotty, I reach you." And my dad used to take me up to the University of the West Indies by James Millet, historian. And Chedi will take me and put me on his lap, And then in the conversations with James and Chedi, you're hearing things like Bhagat Singh, Frantz Fanon, Charu Machunda, Indira Gandhi, Ho Chi Minh, Patrice Lumumba, Amilcar Cabral, Agostino Neto, and these guys speaking about international struggles from start to finish, you know. And then they used to be making fun of Eric Williams, it's called him Deafy, because Eric Williams had that hearing problem, and they call him Deafy, you know, kindness down a wrong road and that kind of thing, you know. And these are the kind of conversations, you know, I grew up hearing. And today, I have a library, you know, with numerous books from international struggles. Whatever struggle that's going on the planet right now, I have those books. Whether the Syrian crisis, whether in Kosovo, or Africa, or India, or what have you. And I think I got that from my dad, because I grew up with him packing clothes, sending it to India, you know, for the less fortunate, in Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. You know, he's sending corned beef, he's sending, you know, sardine and that kind of thing. Cuba, and what have you. So, I look today and I see my daughter doing the same thing. So she take up herself, you see her going Woodford Square. I said, where are you going? She said, I'm going Woodford Square and they showed some food and thing and thing. I said, what? She said, some friends coming over. I just want you to do this and clean up there and whatever the case may be. And everything. I said, all right. And then she said, Daddy, I have 6 bags with cartoon and thing on it. You feel you know any children within the age group of 5 to 10 that they could, so you know, when I reflect, I said, this girl came from that seed, you know, from Constantine, you know, and I just laugh it out, you know. And that's the kind of man my dad was. You know, he always helpful. He sponsored basketball team when he had very little. He sponsored basketball team, football, and that kind of thing, you know. And that is what really stood out in all, you know, his journeys, you know, through life, you know. He took me to all these football games, you know, international games coming, you know, whether it's Corinthians from Brazil, this next side with Zico and them come from juniors or wherever. And, you know, there's a man, whether Ireland, Manchester United, whatever, he took me as a little boy, you know. Carl Lewis, when Carl Lewis came down here to run Hazley Crawford. I think Crawford didn't run the race really because he had some injury. Carl Lewis came and he took me to meet Carl Lewis and I had a conversation with Carl Lewis. You know, so that was the kind of a camaraderie I had with my dad. You know, apart from sitting down and speaking about Marxism, Leninism, you know, we could speak about Olaf Palm from Sweden. You know, you could speak about, you know, Maurice Bishop in Grenada, and that Maurice Bishop thing in Grenada, it hurt him a lot. He cried like a baby when that, you know, fallout, you know, ushered in, you know. And he wished like the way he was crying, and he wished like he was there, you know, to defend the revolution. And these are the things that stood out, you know, so. A big tree has fallen, you know. A big tree has fallen. And I miss your dad, you know. Regardless, you know, we didn't see eye to eye coming down in the later, you know, the latter part of your life, you know, with the way the politics selling and see, you know, whatever, you know, that kind of conversation. And before he got debilitated, I got a phone call from him with the Hamas Israeli fallout, and he said, "Yes, you are Netanyahu them doing well." I said, "Well, they get that from Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres and Menachem Begin and thing." He said, "Well, your brain's still sharp," but he said, "Yeah, still sharp." So that's the gentleman I knew. So rest easy.
make people cry in this place. But thank you very much, Auntie Kasim and Daddy, for that wonderful, wonderful tribute. And yes, Uncle, rub your shoulder. Rub your shoulder. Massage. It probably sore from the exercising. So at this time, I am now going to open up the floor for any tributes from any family and friends. So if you would like to share a few words, a memory about Grandpa, please feel free to come forward. I know time is very limited, but anyone who would like to say a few words, you're welcome. You can come up to the podium.
Good morning, all protocol observed. One of the things you all miss out, since I know Mr. Scott, and a lot of you all do not know I used to sell nuts. Going to college, St. Joseph College, I met Mr. Scott in Kuwait. He always in Kuwait. I do not know what he liked about Kuwait, but he always in Kuwait with a good friend. And I met him there, going to school, selling nuts. I went up in a club called Red Spot. And he said, come here, what you doing up here? I said, well, I have to sell nuts to help out with my family home because my mother had 13 children. No father around. And he took my bag and started selling nuts. And every time I go to Kuwait to sell nuts, I always looking out to see if I see Mr. Scott. And I get to go knowing Mr. Scott always assisted me while I selling nuts. With interacting with him during the years, we talk a lot about sports, we talk a lot about culture. And one day Mr. Scott said he always promoting them pan side in the east and in the west and in the north. North, you don't even talk about those south band. So one day he said I would take you to south, and Mr. Scott bring me to San Fernando. I never forget he took me to Fontclair. That was his band. He introduced me to Fillmore. Then he took me to Hatters, down at the cemetery on Broadway. After Hatters, Mr. Scott bring me to Skipper Bunch, where the former mayor band. And he said, this is band you must listen to. Not all them East band. And I remember he tell me, come and listen to Pan by Storm. Fontclair was playing. We went to the Panorama. And when Fontclair came Sakat, he turned to me and said, you see, the robbers. So I said, how you mean the robbers? He said, Fontclair supposed to win that Panorama that year. And it was really, when I watched the movements of the people in the Savannah, even Mr. Scott, dressed neat, with his Fontclair jersey on, dancing to the tune, only become sad when the result come back out. I remember about 3 weeks ago, I saw Ashaki Scott in Kuwait, together with her nephew. And I said, what about your father? She said, he there. Anyway, I saw his son. I said, what about your father? He said, there, he fighting. But Mr. Scott, in the days of time when I need going to college, he helped me out selling my nuts. I used to call him my nuts partner. And I know that the father, his son and his daughter, his grandchildren, your father left a legacy. Don't talk about politics. When I joined the COP as a foundation member, your father taught me a lot. I remember he said, ever see, come on, let us go Labor Day celebration in Faizabad. And when I entered the Labor Day celebration, I always with my COP jersey on. Anyway, after that, he see me even in Panorama with my COP jersey on. He said, like, you like COP more than Pan now. And then Mr. Scott called me. I said, early this morning, he said, yes, boy, I saw you on television. I said, saw me on television, and he said, yes, with the TASA Association. I said, yes. As the vice president, he said about everything and everything. Ashaki, I want to tell you today, your father was a great man. I want to tell his sons, your father was a great man. I want to tell his grandchildren, your father was a great man. His legacy will live on with you all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to come? We can start a little line if you all want to make it easier. So anyone who wishes to come up, you could probably start to gather to the front.
Good morning, everyone. I just look around and I see a filled hall on a very busy Tuesday morning for each of us to have taken the time to come, to pay respects, to listen and learn, as I have greater insight into the man I've known since I became involved in the politics. So Winston Dukaran, thank you for introducing me into politics and introducing me into the men and women who truly are the salt of this earth. To hear you speak of your dad and to hear you and Ashaki, you all are orators beyond compare. Not surprisingly, built on a foundation of love and care. True patriots who expanded your knowledge, expanded your ability to serve others. We will be humbled in the shadow of a man like Mr. Scott. I didn't know him as well as I should have. And today I'm so delighted to have heard so much more about him. What I did learn about him was a true gentleman. A man with always a quick smile and a supporting hand. Never get a negative bit of energy from this man. Whatever it was, sure, let's do it. Always there. I yearn for the day when the younger generations will see more of these icons. Not just to praise them, but to emulate them. Because the shadows that are coming upon us now need more light like him. And I'm delighted to have seen you, to hear is it your brother? Cousin. Brilliant, beautiful. I am restored at a funeral. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as I said before, it's nice to know that all of Grandpa's, everything that he passed on, I'm happy to know that it's reflecting well.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is George Jordan. For those of you who know me, my name is still George Jordan. However, some of you might not know, my middle name is Constantine. My name is George Constantine Jordan. I never used the Constantine because Consi already had it, right? So, Consi and I grew up in Faizabad. And Patrick, he's my godson. So, Ashaka, you missed out because he's my grandson, right? So, well, I think everything was almost said about with Ashaki and Karima and Patrick, right? So I'll be very short. All I remember, Consi, although you say he didn't go to this college, Consi is one of the most intelligent beings I ever met. He didn't go press, he didn't go QRC, but he was one of the most intelligent human beings I ever met in Fairbank. And he was, as you said, he was also a humanitarian. And we struggled together. We struggled together in Enjak North. And I will tell you, Consi was fearless. I was a coward compared to Consi. We would be in Charlie King Junction, if you know Faizabad, right? And the police would just pull up because they see Consi, and I know Consi. And I trimmed them like that. But Consi giving them talk. Consi, here now, real talk. And you see Patrick really learned from Consi. But that is Consi sitting down there, right? That is Consi down there. And I was very privileged to have known Consi. We born the same year. I born February 13th, he born March. Same 1946. I don't know why we connected so much. And the both of them Constantine, and I'm proud of Constantine, right? So to the family and friends, I just want to tell you to hold on, stay strong, consider for legacy, keep it going. And for the brothers who not here, I want to they send their greetings because they couldn't be here, and family, stay strong. Love you, Consi.
Good day, folks. My condolences to the family. Well, I've been listed as a friend of Consi, but with friends like me, I don't think you need enemies anymore, because it has been so long I've been promising to go and visit Consi and I haven't been there. So I like to put this out to you people too, that when you have friends, try and make time to go and see them before it's too late. Now, Consi was a fighter. His first shop parts place in Faizabad, it was one of the persons there was Tapia. The other was a mutineer from the army in 1970, and Consi. And these three people worked together in that business. Now, this is because there was a dream, and there still is a dream. Now, do not be offended by the lyrics I'm going to say to you here. Our dream was based upon the words of a song that said, "Here I stand looking around me, and what do I see? Unhappy faces dressed up in modern style. Children, both rich and poor, searching for the truth. And if they don't find it, God help tomorrow youth." And here we are today. God help our youth, because we are in not a very good place. So the dream was to build a better society for Trinidad and Tobago. It is still a dream, but it can be a reality, and it needs older heads supporting the younger ones, because this world, this nation belongs to the youth. It belongs to the old people who didn't really fulfill what they should, but it belongs to the youth. I would like to end by saying this is the dream of Consi, myself, and all of us. Imagine a society where there is no division based on religion. Imagine there is no heaven. Imagine there is no hell. Only no hell below us. But imagine a society of everyone living for each other. You may say that I'm a dreamer. This is a song of Yoko Ono. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope one day you will join us and the world will be as one.
Good afternoon, all. it would be really amiss of me if I did not say a few words on behalf of my dear friend Scotty. I would like to extend condolences to the family, the wife, Shaki, brothers, nieces and nephews. Scotty and I, we spend a lot of good times together. My home was a pleasant place for the family, and we used to have a lot of lunches and dinner together. And we always, well, in fact, we used to go out to a lot of the political meetings together. We were very excited at times, you know, at the politics. And Scotty and I were always around to all meetings, wherever in Trinidad. My wife is a good cook, so they used to come and spend a lot of time with us. And after lunch or dinner, we'll end up chatting for a long while. I had many visitors, many family from North and Central, and we end up chatting a lot. And it was a long period we had together. So it is very sad of his passing, and I would like to wish all the children, the grandchildren, even the wife, may you get over this over a short period of time. And remember, Scotty was always on the go. So keep it good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all who came forward and shared so many nice memories, moments that were shared with Papa. And I would just like to say two things before I move on to the next item. I always get the question anytime I'm in a lot of these, activism spaces as a young person. Why are you like this? Like, where you get all this from? And I'm like, I'm just like this, And it's because, and I tell people, it's in my blood. Political activism is literally running through the blood of my veins. It's in myself, it's in my father, it's in my auntie, it was in my grandpa, it was in his siblings, it was in his entire family. So it literally runs in our blood. And I think, when it runs in your blood, the way that you serve, the way that you treat others is really, really different. And that is exactly who Grandpa was, and it's exactly who my father, my auntie, my uncle is. It's exactly how we are, and I think there's something to be said about that. And the second thing is, whenever it says I mention to people that, my family was involved in politics, they assume the obvious, right? And I have to be like, no. My family challenges the status quo. My grandpa questioned what was happening. We were never ones to just blindly support governing structures. We were always the ones to question it and stand up against it. And I think that is a value that we all as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago need to continue doing, because this is our country and the future of our country depends on us. So I hope that the legacy that my grandfather lived doesn't just only live on in his children and grandchildren, but I hope it inspires each one of you here today. So now we're going to come to the closing, and I'm going to invite Dr. Roger Samuel, former Member of Parliament for Arima and member of the Congress of the People, and a dear friend to the family, to deliver the invocation.
Blessings to everyone. I want to offer my condolences to the entire family. So much has been said about Mr. Scott. When you have a name that is constant, it says that he's constantly affecting people's lives and constantly doing a lot of stuff. And if you understand the root of the word from its Latin origin has to do with stableness, and he exhibited that kind of life and that kind of personality in everything that he did. I remember having not many discussions with him, but the few that I had with him, I, like Shaki would have said, recognized that the guy is stubborn. But then when you understood his name, Constant, it means that it's not something that you can change easily. So I acknowledged that with him tremendously. And when I one day called him Mr. Scott, he said, well, you're almost as old as me. Oh, you call him Mr. Scott? My name is Constantine. You know, so I laughed. I said, just respect, sir. Just respect. And that's the kind of person that he was. But at the end of the day, we all have to take close examinations of ourselves. While we can sit here and talk about Mr. Scott, the big question is, what are people saying about us? What are we leaving? What lasting impressions are we leaving on the hearts and the minds of others? What are we known for? What are we known by? And then the big question has to be, what is life really all about? Why are we here? How do we determine why we are here and what we are here for? And it's important for us to find that out, and my quest to find that out may be in a different direction, because mine is hinged upon what my faith says, what God says, and my direction would have to be determined by what He says. And it's important for me to know that, because when I was a child, one writer says, I laughed and wept, but time crept. When I was a youth, I waxed more bold, but time strolled. When I became a full-grown man, time ran. And when older, still I daily grew, time flew. And as we exist today, we recognize that nothing waits on us. Time does not waste on us. And there was a wise man, and his name was Solomon, that says that there is a time for everything under the sun. There's a time to live or to be born, and a time to die. There's a time for everything, and it means that our concept of life must be based not upon how we entered into life and how we left life. It must be based upon what we have done in between. Because every day of our lives, we are practicing getting on and getting off. We are practicing entry and exit. And it's very important for us to know that we are constantly practicing entry and exit. We came into this building and we will leave. We came into our cars and we'll park and leave it. And entry and exit is something that we are practicing every day. And it is not so much how you entered your car or how you exited your car that counts. What counts is what you did in between. Because all of us are just in betweeners. We exist between two constant things. We have entered into life and we will exit life. And what we do in between is of importance not only to us, but it's of importance to everybody around us. It is important to everybody that lived, what legacies we leave behind. And A young man was walking through a cemetery one day with a school bag. And he began to read the inscription on the tombstones, you know, those beautiful things that they have in these tombstones in memory of. And he was passing by, and there was one particular tombstone that blew his mind. It read like this: "Stranger, stranger, stop a while. As you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you will be. Prepare yourself to follow me." The young boy moved on, but something about that inscription blew his mind. And he stood for a while thinking. And then he walked back to the tombstone, took out a marker from his school bag, and wrote just below the inscription, "To follow you, I'm not content until I know which way you went." I just want you to think about that a little bit. I just want you to meditate on that a little bit. Because we cannot follow blindly. The wise man Solomon, in understanding in his late years that life is really vanity and striving after the wind. And the reason why he says that is because one thing Solomon learned is that it doesn't matter how much you have. You're going alone. And then he came to his wisdom and he says, you know, somebody else will get your stuff. And who is to say they deserve it? Somebody else will wear your clothes. I had this big thing with my siblings one day, and they were quarreling because I wore my brother's pants. I was the last brother, and you know, I could do anything like that. And they were angry, and I said, but when you're dead, somebody from St. Vincent de Paul Society will get it. And we make a lot of style, and don't use my thing, and don't use it, and don't use it. And you know something? I have found out that we all look the same when we die. Nobody recognizes your race 1 month after. Nobody recognizes how pretty you were 1 month after. Nobody recognizes anything about you one month after, because 1 month after, you all look the same. I was looking for some dirt, because at the end of the day, we all look alike. In terminologies of crematoriums, they look the same. In terminologies of burials, eventually they look the same. Dirt. So what really is important? What you do in between when you enter, and what you do before you exit. What happens to your life? What do you leave for people to remember? And then more so, did you serve yourself? Or were you submissive to someone who is far superior and greater, who created all of these things that we have? So Solomon once says that life is a strange thing, because we're going to all get old, if we do. And one day we're going to all pass away when we do. So it's a if and a when. And he says, what is the conclusion of the whole matter? Because a time happens when desire fails. As we begin to get old, Ashaki, desire fails. And he uses poetic language, talking about giving God the very best years of your life. But he says, because a time will come when the keepers of the house will tremble. Poetic language. And he was saying when we get old, the hands begin to shake. And he says that the strong men shall bow themselves, Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And the strong men of the body are the legs. As you begin to get old, they begin to what? Bow themselves. And then he says, and they that look out of the window shall be darkened. When you begin to get old, you can't see thus far. And he says that the daughters of music shall be brought low. He says when we're young, we could sing and talk loud. As we begin to get old, the voice levels and the decibel levels begin to deteriorate. And then Solomon says that we shall rise up at the sound of a bird. In other words, everything becomes a problem. Anybody have any problems like that? Where you're sleeping and you have a problem, every little noise, you wake up. Anybody like that here? You're getting old. They shall rise up at the sound of every little thing. As a matter of fact, they say old people sleep when they're not sleeping. And they're up when they are sleeping also. Because they hear everything. And then Solomon says something that is phenomenal. He says that the pitcher is broken at the fountain. In other words, suddenly, life is gone. And then he says, man goeth his long home, and the mourners go about the streets. I want to encourage you today that you must look at what you do in between. As a matter of fact, we are now closer to exit than from the entrance. The youngest person here is probably you. Am I right? Or any other children? Okay, I have some little ones? Okay. But I'm using you. You are further from your entrance. You're getting closer today. When that will happen, nobody knows. But what you do in between, how you submit yourself, is important. How you understand your purpose and why you are here is important. How you understand and learn how to submit to the highest authority, the creator of the universe, that is important. How you do that is important. How you subject your life to him, understanding and fulfilling purpose. Because all of us are equal. Your father believed, Ashaki, in equality. He believed in the same for everyone. I may not have shared some of his views like your brother, the Marxist. But there was a view. And the view was that if you hear me out, I will hear you out. Today, we all have to give an account for the life that we have. Whether it be good or whether it be evil. The question is, what account are you giving? A young man came asking questions one day. And he wanted the Christ to be the arbiter between him and his brother because the brother would not divide his stuff, the father's stuff with him. And then Jesus told us a great parable about a man whose barns overflowed, and he had plenty. And he said to himself, what shall I do? He says, I will break down my small barns and I will build bigger barns. And I will say to myself, you have done well. Eat, drink, and be merry. You have a lot in store for you. And then scripture says that same night, God says, thou fool, tonight is thy soul required of thee. And then whose stuff shall it be that you have? And then later on in the text, the scripture says that a man's life is not based upon the abundance of the things that he has, but it's only based upon his richness towards God. And it's important for us to know that. Because today in society, people are known because of their richness and the eloquence and what they have. But in the eyes of the Creator, is not what you have, is who you are. and how much you have submitted to him that is important. And today I want to encourage you. Submit to him. Give him the very best years of your lives and let him channel your life where he wants you to. He has channeled my life in a few areas. I'm glad I eventually got involved in politics because I got to know Constantine. And it's only because I got to know Constantine I now know his son. And I know Ashaki. And I know the others, and I now know her. Why? Because of him. So how God channels you, what happens, you begin to now touch lives in every way possible. I just want to encourage you today. Give him the best years of your life. And you'll be surprised to see what he's able to do with you and the impression that you will leave on society. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roger Samuel, for that very, very powerful invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. On behalf of the Scott family, I would like to sincerely thank each one of you here today for your prayers, for your kind words, and your well wishes. Your presence means a whole lot to us, and we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for showing up today and for all of the support that you have given to Grandpa and the family over the years. So we've come to the end of today's proceedings, and we are now going to proceed to the cremation, and there will be some light refreshments as you exit the chapel. So thank you once again for joining us as we honor the life of a remarkable man, my grandfather, Mr. Constantine Scott. Thank you. Everyone, we will have a last viewing of Grandpa. So if you would like to take one last view, we would ask that you come down to the front, take your view, and then quickly exit to my right, your left. Program. She wants a program. She wants a program. One last viewing. Please make your way to the front and then quickly make your way to the exit, which is on my right, your left. and gentlemen, the family is preparing for the cremation. So if you would like to have one last viewing, please come to the front quickly as we prepare to close.
organize. Everybody go do. We go do something. Amazing. And everybody will get in the video shot too, so we could work it to suit now. Get a piece of jam there. And get them jam. So you don't want to see. That video with Barry. I can take one comments on TikTok, you know. The video,
it was bad.
It was 50-50.
Hey, is that it was bad. US, you're reaching there. I gotta send some in you up to
You're reaching up there.
It's a gift card,
Yeah, if you're buying enough gift cards. Where would you buy it from?
It's by Amazon.
No, you get gift cards. You gotta say buy enough gift cards.
It's at a pre-order, so it's at least a month. Right.
a brand new board there. That 3,000 when I was a kid to buy that board. Boy, when I'm to bring it down was the problem because the US was the issue. And some years back, they're not showing that they are vaccine. And guess what? I'm not engineering. And we make up since that yes, we never do stuff with your stock now. And I just thought I was looking for a board, but I'm on the secrets. I'm on bringing a board into Vigo. And they never use it. And you see they're going to project now. You say if you want it, you organize. Next day, the board come, you can change it. Because you know, man, you say you can put, you know everything will be good. One time I'm bringing on board, say, boy,
Well, that was my favorite.
yeah, boy. And yeah, once you had a online, so we're just trying to sell it tonight, let's see. So that was so me. One time I take it up.
I would agree, right?
But you buy the board, it's still one thing to buy it.
You know what you have, right?
The more you need is not all one is need to work the board.
Because technology going so fast.
Yeah, they get this thing and this cable and this thing and it was about a week after when I was going to use the board, $800 Ethernet cable I had to buy. You need shielded cable to use to run the cable stick. So I had to buy it. When you buy it, once you run it, once you use it proper gear,